What if the version of reality you've accepted is only a fraction of what's truly there? Not wrong, just incomplete, like a dream half remembered, familiar in feeling, yet hollow in depth. You were never meant to forget. And yet something ancient was hidden from you, not by accident but by design. A veil was drawn, a rhythm disrupted, and beneath the noise of ordinary life, a sacred memory has been waiting. You didn't stumble here, you were called. Some silent fragment of your soul has been searching, not for answers but for resonance. And now you've arrived. This is not just a video, it is a doorway, a key, a remembering. What you are about to witness will not simply inform you, it may rearrange you, reignite what's been sleeping beneath your surface. So breathe, let go of what you think you know, and step gently with us into a forgotten knowing, one that has always been yours. Sometimes the universe whispers and sometimes it echoes, not through signs in the sky, but through the low-grade discomfort that hums beneath your skin. You feel like you're moving, yet going nowhere. Busy, yet stagnant. You try harder, push further, speak louder, but the stillness only deepens. This isn't punishment, it's precision. What you're calling confusion is your body sensing the gap between who you're pretending to be and who you truly are. The tightness in your chest, the procrastination, the emotional fatigue, these aren't weaknesses, they're coordinates. They are the exact frequencies showing you where alignment has been lost. We've been conditioned to call these moments wrong, to label them as slumps, setbacks, bad days. We try to fix them with more doing, more scrolling, more advice. But what if your overwhelm isn't asking for action? What if it's asking for silence? To observe misalignment without judgment is to reclaim your compass. When you stop resisting the discomfort, you start decoding it. Misalignment isn't an enemy. It's intelligence. It's your energetic system flashing red not to hurt you, but to wake you. The real pain doesn't come from being off track. It comes from ignoring the signals that you are. You are not a project to be optimized. You are a field of frequencies in constant negotiation. What you feel isn't random, it's data, a map. Each time you feel off, it's not because you failed, but because some part of you is ready to shift. So sit with it. Not to analyze, not to label, just to witness. Let the tightness speak before you interrupt it with a solution. Let the confusion breathe before you chase clarity. In that space, beneath the rush to fix, is a rare power. It's the power of self-resonance, the subtle art of listening deeply to your own vibration without rushing to change it. Because the moment you listen, you begin to harmonize, and harmony is healing. Misalignment is not an obstacle. It's a portal, but you must enter it without the armor of control. You must walk into it not as a taskmaster, but as a witness. Only then does the signal transform into wisdom. Only then does the discomfort begin to transmute into direction. You don't need to force clarity. You need to create the space where clarity can arrive. And that begins with asking not, "What's wrong with me?" but "What in me is finally speaking up?" The shift doesn't begin when something changes out there. It begins when you change the origin of your being. You've been taught to chase goals like destinations, somewhere beyond the horizon, beyond readiness, beyond who you are today. But the quantum leap doesn't wait for the calendar. It answers to frequency. Becoming is not the result of arrival. Becoming is the arrival. You don't step into your next life by figuring it out. You step into it by feeling it, by embodying it, by broadcasting it. Not as performance, but as alignment. The version of you who has already made it. They don't think the same. They don't carry the same fears. They don't tolerate the same noise. They move from a different center. When you begin to live from that energy, reality bends. Because reality isn't fixed, it's responsive. The quantum field doesn't respond to your desires. It responds to your dominant vibration. You say you want peace, but do you speak from peace? You crave freedom, but do your daily choices reflect someone who is already free? This is the sacred reversal, the end of striving, the beginning of resonance. When you shift from getting there to being there, you collapse time. And in that collapse, the improbable becomes inevitable. But this isn't about pretending. It's about remembering. It's about tuning into what's already true in a deeper field. You don't need to become someone else. You need to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. This remembrance is not loud. It's not flashy. It lives in the subtle. How you enter a room, how you talk to your body, how you choose your next thought. These are micro acts of self-definition. They carry signal. They broadcast to the quantum. And the field responds not to your need, but to your signal. So start there. Not with more plans, but with more presence. Not with better strategies, but with better questions. What would my highest self wear today? What would they say no to? How would they handle this moment, not for the sake of performance, but from truth? You don't need to wait until you arrive to start becoming. You become, then you arrive. Identity is not an outcome. It's an atmosphere. Create that atmosphere and watch how life begins to echo back to you in the same tone. This is the real work. Not forcing change, but allowing truth. Not chasing results, but adjusting frequency. Because in the end, you're not manifesting an event. You're manifesting a self. And that self, they already exist. They're waiting for you to tune in. No one tells you that becoming more of yourself might first feel like falling apart. You imagine expansion will come with ease, with clarity, with soaring. But sometimes, it arrives with a silence that unsettles, with a breakdown that feels like betrayal, with the aching recognition that the version of you who got you here can't take you further. And that's not a failure. That's the initiation. Before any leap, there is a letting go. Not just of what you own or what you do, but of who you think you are. The collapse is sacred not because it feels good, but because it clears space. It dissolves the protective layers built out of survival, people-pleasing, and old identities. The ones you outgrew without even noticing. Let it fall. Let the false scaffolding of self crumble, not by force, but by permission. You don't have to fight it. You only have to feel it. To stand still in the middle of the unraveling and whisper, I allow this. Because what's collapsing isn't your essence, it's the architecture around it. The patterns you used to fit in, the beliefs you wore like armor, the dreams that were never yours to begin with. And yes, it can feel like dying. The ego will panic. It will try to rebuild old shapes. It will offer you distractions dressed as comfort. But the deeper truth is this: your soul is not breaking. It's unwrapping. It's peeling away what no longer serves so you can remember what always has. Grief is natural here. Not just grief for what you lost, but for the years you spent pretending not to know you were more. Honor that grief. Let it wash through. It is not weakness. It is the wave that clears the ground for what's next. This is the part no one posts about. The messy middle, the disorientation, the empty room after the storm. But here in this fertile stillness is where your next self is seated. Don't rush to rebuild. Don't race to find new answers. Sit in the ashes. Listen to the silence. Because that silence is not absence, it's preparation. It's the pause before emergence, the dark before the dawn. And if you resist it, you will reattach to what's familiar. But if you let it be holy, it will birth something honest. There is nothing wrong with you when you feel like you're unraveling. You're just being rewritten. The collapse is not a crisis. It's a clearing. And the parts of you that don't survive this moment were never truly you to begin with. In the realm of quantum physics, nothing exists as fixed until it's observed. Until then, it's just potential, pure possibility suspended in a sea of probabilities. It's not the object that determines the outcome. It's the observer. The act of observation collapses the wave into a particle, the field into form. Your life works the same way. You're not simply living in a world. You're shaping it, moment to moment, through the lens of who you believe you are. Every thought you hold, every expectation you project, every inner narrative you rehearse in silence becomes a filter. And that filter decides what kind of world reflects back to you. Not what you wish for, not what you affirm on paper, but what you expect from the marrow of your identity. This is the invisible architecture of reality, the self-concept behind the scenes, and it is far more powerful than strategy, timing, or effort, because your identity is not passive. It's a directive. It tells the universe, this is what I'm available for. This is what I'm attuned to. This is who I think I am. So if you want to change your world, don't start with the world. Start with the one who's watching it. The true pivot begins when you stop asking, why isn't my life different? And start asking, what kind of observer have I been? What stories am I still subscribing to? What definitions of self do I keep repeating under my breath? Where have I mistaken memory for truth? Because here's the paradox. The world doesn't confirm your truth. It reflects your familiarity. And the familiar is often the result of unconscious repetition, not inner alignment. The moment you shift your perception of self from a victim of circumstance to a creator of resonance, the world must adapt, not because you forced it to, but because it was never separate in the first place. It was always your mirror, and the mirror responds to tone, not effort. So speak to yourself with the voice of your future. Not to manifest something new, but to embody the frequency that makes the new inevitable. Let every internal dialogue become a tuning fork, emitting the version of you who's already home. This isn't about pretending, it's about precision. Your external reality is a delayed echo of your inner state. So don't just change the outside, rewire the signal. Because once you shift the observer, the world can't help but respond in kind. There is a moment when something clicks not outside but within. You stop fighting the current and start floating with it. The noise quiets. the overthinking settles. And for the first time in a long time, your thoughts, feelings, and actions all begin to hum in the same frequency. This is coherence. Not the kind you think your way into, but the kind you feel your way into. It's not manufactured, it's remembered. And in that remembrance, you enter what some call flow, others call presence, but what in truth is a gateway to the quantum field. Because the universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to who you are, beneath the surface. When your mind says one thing, your body feels another, and your behavior contradicts both. The field receives static. Mixed signals, no clarity, no coherence. But when your belief is matched by feeling and your feeling is matched by behavior, something happens. The field locks in, the signal sharpens, and reality reorganizes around it. Coherence is not perfection, it's integrity, energetic congruence. A state in which there's no internal war, no hidden agenda, no silent self-betrayal, just alignment, just resonance. You begin to live less from force and more from frequency. So instead of trying to attract what you want, you become the version of yourself who no longer needs to chase. You stop reaching and you start radiating. And in that radiation, you become a beacon, not a beggar. This is not spiritual bypassing. It's vibrational responsibility. It means taking ownership of your internal climate, not to suppress, but to synchronize. It means noticing when your thoughts are out of sync with your heart, when your actions betray your truth, and gently recalibrating, not from guilt, but from awareness. Because coherence doesn't require effort. It requires honesty. Ask yourself, what emotion is fueling this thought? What belief is behind this behavior? Is this coming from fear or from faith? Every time you choose internal harmony, you re-enter the current of clarity. You collapse timelines not through speed but through signal. And that signal is what the quantum field listens to, not your intensity, your integrity, so don't try to get there. Get here fully, sincerely, wholly. Let your thoughts speak the same language as your soul. Let your feelings echo the truth of your desire. Let your actions confirm what your energy has already declared. Because when the whole of you says yes in unison, the universe doesn't hesitate. It says yes too. We tend to think transformation demands something dramatic, a lightning bolt, a breakdown, a breakthrough. But most shifts don't arrive with fanfare. They arrive in whispers. In the quiet choices you make when no one's watching. In the subtle adjustments that seem too small to matter until they shape everything. This is the power of micro-actions. Each time you choose from your future self rather than your former self, you change the signal. You're no longer reacting from programming. You're responding from presence. You're not asking life to change, you're showing life that you've changed. And life listens, making your bed as a sacred ritual, speaking to yourself with kindness instead of critique, saying no to what once seduced you into shrinking, lighting a candle in the morning not for aesthetics, but to mark your energetic intention for the day. These aren't tasks. They're transmissions. Your environment is not separate from your evolution. Your habits are not neutral. Every drawer you organize, every space you clear, every word you shift from fear to truth, they all say one thing to the field: I'm ready. Not in theory, in frequency. This is embodiment. You're not waiting for the external proof to act differently. You're using small, daily decisions to anchor the vibration of your future self in the now. And that anchoring is what collapses potential into presence. You may not feel different overnight, but the field does, because micro actions aren't about speed. They're about signal integrity. They say, "This is who I am now," without shouting. And over time, those whispers build momentum. They rewire identity. They recalibrate reality. Think of each action as a tuning fork. It either harmonizes or distorts your desired frequency. You don't need to get it perfect. You just need to keep choosing from coherence, even when the old self calls you back, even when no one sees, even when it doesn't yet make sense. That's how real transformation sneaks in, through the ordinary done with extraordinary presence. So pause. Ask yourself before you speak, before you scroll, before you say yes or no. Is this a match for the self I'm becoming? Because the most powerful shift you can make is not waiting until everything is different, but becoming the reason everything starts to be. In the quantum field, small is not small. It is focused. It is clear. And when repeated, it becomes sacred. There's a moment in every transformation when the mind screams for control and the soul whispers for release. You've done the visualizations. You've written the intentions. You've shifted your habits. But still, something hasn't landed. And so you grip harder. You tighten. You wait for the universe to reward your effort with evidence. But effort is not the portal. Surrender is. Control, for all its illusion of power, is actually a form of resistance. It says, I don't trust this timeline. I don't trust this process. I don't trust that I'm enough unless I manage the outcome. But transformation doesn't bloom under pressure. It opens in the soil of allowance. Letting go isn't about apathy. It's not giving up, it's giving over. To intelligence deeper than your plan, to timing wiser than your fear, to a self that already exists beyond your need to prove. You don't need to manipulate the path. You need to clear the space for it. And that space is created through release, not of vision, but of force. What if your job isn't to make it happen, but to become available to it? That shift changes everything. You move from grasping to receiving, from fixing to flowing, from performing to trusting. And it's in that vibrational space that the leap occurs, not because you pushed hard enough, but because you finally stopped standing in your own way. Letting go invites quantum precision. It says to the field, I've aligned, now I allow. You see, the leap doesn't come after you've perfected yourself. It comes the moment you decide that who you are right now is already enough to begin. You don't have to become better. You just have to become more you. Letting go means loosening the grip on old metrics of safety, success, worth. It means breathing through the discomfort of not knowing. It means sitting in the void long enough to discover that the void is fertile. Yes, fear will rise. Let it. Yes, doubt will whisper. Hear it. And still release. Because surrender is not a passive state. It's an active collaboration with what wants to move through you. It's the deepest form of trust. Not in a specific outcome, but in your capacity to be with whatever unfolds. The leap is not something you earn. It's something you receive when you stop demanding and start allowing. When you stop needing certainty and start embodying faith. You are not stuck because you lack tools. You're stuck because you're still trying to steer a ship that's meant to sail itself. So open your hands, drop the urgency, and let the wind take you. What if the version of you you've been chasing wasn't ahead of you, but around you? What if it's not some future self waiting at the end of a perfect plan, but a vibrational presence already whispering beneath your current breath? In the quantum field, all versions of you exist simultaneously. The you who's free, fulfilled, awake, at peace. That self isn't out there. It's in here, just waiting for resonance, waiting for you to stop delaying and start aligning. Because becoming isn't about evolution across time. It's about choice across frequency. You don't need more days. You need a different decision. A choice to collapse the gap between someday and now. Not by faking it, but by acting from it. From trust, not tension. From embodiment, not effort. The moment you stop approaching your future self as a distant goal and begin responding as if that self is already breathing through you, you alter your signature in the field. You become the evidence. You become the shift. Every word you speak, every step you take, every breath you release can either signal delay or declare arrival. So why wait? Waiting is a frequency. So is readiness. And readiness isn't about having more. It's about being more. You don't become magnetic by wishing. You become magnetic by remembering that who you are becoming is already encoded in your field, and your job is to live like it's already done. Yes, even when it's uncomfortable. Yes, even when the external doesn't match yet. Because energy leads, matter follows, so pause. Inhale as the self who has already crossed the threshold. Speak as the one who no longer needs permission. Decide from the consciousness of already done, not still waiting. This isn't about faking it until you make it. It's about feeling it until you remember. Because the truth is, you've already begun. With every moment of awareness, every micro shift, every time you've chosen truth over fear, you've already stepped in. Now act like it. Let every part of your being say, I'm here, not trying, not becoming, being. And watch how life meets you, not where you were, but where you've chosen to live.